Hey guys, welcome back to a brand new video. In this video, we're going to be going over the top 5 soul lane gods. I'm on this website here, Smite Base 2, to kind of help assist in showing some builds off. So I apologize if I'm a little bit rusty with this interface. I've never used it before. There's not really a great built-in building mechanic in for Smite 2. Really quick before we start this, I just wanted to state that thank you for all the support, obviously, but I also do like paid coaching for solo lane, but also for jungle, mid, support, ADC, every role specified, of course, in solo. And I've been doing a couple of these coachings, obviously with the consent of the person who I've been doing them with, or the people I've been doing it with. And they've allowed me to record these coaching sessions. So if you guys are interested, I can upload some of these and showcase kind of what a coaching process looks like if you're interested. I go really in depth, usually an hour and a half to 2 hours, so it'd be a long video, but I think it could be a very helpful way to show the play-by-play perspective in somebody who's lacking in a lot of those departments and kind of help guide them, into playing better and help guide you ultimately into playing better. So let me know if you're interested. Would love to do it. Um, Anyways, we're going to go to the top 5 gods. I don't really think I'm going to do honorable mentions, but I'll mention other characters that I think are good. Of course, this list is ordered, but there, to some degree, I think is an argument that these characters are all really close, so don't need to worry about it too much. But for the number 5 solo laner in this role, I'm going to give it to the Morrigan. This is probably a pick that I think a lot of people would be surprised to see just in the solo lane list at all. I know she's a little bit buggy with her frame drops and whatnot, and as a result, you don't maybe see her as much as you should. She's also a fairly difficult character, but the Morrigan has just so much value from a team fighting perspective because she's able to um, not only take the ultimate from somebody, but also use their relic. That's a very, very advantageous thing to have when relic cooldowns, you only have one relic and the timer is so long. So it slots her in to be very versatile and strong in team fights. You can switch into a Fenrir, for example, and ult, blink, detransform, still have beads or Aegis up or whatever relic you decide to go. Her lanes are quite good. This is very much a mage solo dominated meta for the most part. Morrigan is good into the mage solos. I put her down at number 5 just because she does have a couple tough matchups into some of the Bruiser Warriors, which again aren't super popular, but she can have an issue into them, and her bugginess just makes her kind of difficult. I want to kind of make this a combination of what are the 5 best gods, but also what are characters that, quite frankly, are playable. What can people play? So for our relics, we're gonna go through all of this really quick. But your relic, you're gonna go beads, Aegis, almost every game. We're building a hybrid but damage-centric Morrigan build, really leaning in on the damage more than the defense. So you want to go one of these defensive relics. I'd typically go Aegis with the understanding that you are getting a very short cooldown out of this, only 140 seconds. So beads is 180, tends to be a little bit better. You go Sands of Time here. And yeah, we'll start going. So again, build-wise, you go Sands of Time, Tier 1, Book of Thoth, and then Health Pots with Aegis. You should be good. You can start on blue or start on wave, up to you. But for the build, and we're just going to build this in order, we go Book of Thoth first. Idea here is mana, power, flat pen. Really, really strong item. Super easy core item to go. After that, assuming we're into a physical, we go Breastplate. And I'll talk about what we do if we're not against a physical, but we'd go Breastplate here. This way we just get a lot of cooldown and reinforce. We also just gain additional mana for our Book of Thoth passive. We're going to go Polynomicon. No cooldown on this item means it's super strong for Morrigan. You can just spam it on all of your abilities. You already have low cooldown. That is quite good. After that, we're going to kind of finalize our cooldown and go into Gem of Focus, which is right here. So this gives us movement speed, more cooldown, really, really synergistic with the rest of the Morrigan's kit. And then in this spot, we still have 2 more items. You're kind of looking at really flex items at this point. As long as you have this core of these 4 items, these last 2 are really up to you. So you can go right up to Hootie and like an Ob Shard if you feel like you need more of a pen look. Again, cooldown wise, you're pretty good here because you've got 25 cooldown rate plus 20 here, so you're at 45 right there, plus 20 with the starters. So you're actually like above the cap, but again, these items are just so strong that it's kind of okay. There's no cap, but you're above like the realistic threshold you need of cooldown. Regardless, so these items are just so good, it's fine. You could lean a little bit more into cooldown just for the passive of the World Stone and go that. Typically, what I do here is I just go like Ob Shard into something, like literally anything. It doesn't matter. You could go Purification Beads here just to get like more safety. You could just go Tahuti here as well. Again, these are all kinds of options that you could do. So really quick, obviously some games you won't be against a physical soul laner. Most games you probably won't be. So what do you go instead here? Instead of Breastplate, just go Soul Gem. That's generally what I do. You could also go Voidstone or Genji's even, but again, you're kind of okay. The idea with Mori is that you play your range, you have really good clear, and you can kind of just build full damage and get away with it pretty easily. Again, considering you transform into a tank and just utilize that tank in the team fights. Again, really, really good pick. At number 5, because she's difficult, I think her ceiling can easily make her a top 3. But she's just a difficult character in comparison to some of the others, and you can argue that the risk reward is still a little bit steep at times for her. But that is number 5, so Morrigan is number 5. Number 4, we're going to select a god here again. It's kind of a toss-up between a couple. I've been sort of unsure of how I've wanted to place this for a bit. But my number 4 is going to actually be Bellona, which I know might be a bit of an unpopular take, or a bit surprising of a take. I really prioritize 1v1ing in solo lane, not just from a laning phase perspective, but from a team fight perspective and opening up the map. I think especially in a ranked context, you want characters that are independently very strong. And Bellona definitely leans into that playstyle very well, and is just able to kind of carry a lot of games because of it. I look at this as like you can play frontline, you can solo people, you can solo objectives. Once you get to a certain point with the build that we're about to showcase here, your laning phases are generally really good, even into these magical picks. So you're kind of just a pressure bot that transitions into being a very strong 1v1 character. So really, really valuable selection. What we want to build for her is we just want to go into Death's Toll as a start. And then our relic is almost always going to be Sunder, but you can go like any of these really and kind of be okay. The idea with Sunder is we just like want to lean into that idea of having pressure. So you start your blue, you can Sunder it or you can hold Sunder, and then you come to lane and you just, again, just harass the lane opponent all game. And again, you should be able to win just about every fight. We'll be going into for this build. Oh, whoops. Okay, sorry, never mind. We're good. We're going to be going into for this build Golden Blade first item. This gives us just like reinforcing that clear, giving us attack speed and power. When you're a pressure character, you kind of want to build damage because it allows you to be hyper aggressive and just really powerful and continue that aggression. After that Golden Blade, generally speaking, what I recommend going here is Pharaoh's Curse. I'm going to try to find it here. Right there. There it is. This gives us shared protection, so it's going to be good into a physical or magical, doesn't matter. But most importantly, it's just the stats are great and you get attack speed. It's just a very strong item, kind of fits everything you need. After Pharaoh's Curse, because you do have some shared protections, you can kind of, again, lean a little bit more into damage. I think right now what you're seeing in the meta is that full tank builds are really not great. Bellona's a character you definitely don't build full tank on, so she tends to benefit a good bit from it. You want to go Braggy's Harp. The idea here is that this is going to be damage to every structure. So this is gods, minions, towers, fire giant, titan, everything. You're just doing a significant amount of extra damage that, again, is opposite of your normal damage being physical. So lane opponents won't be building magical defense and rushing that into a Bellona. And as a result, you really kind of just get to take advantage of 1v1s in the lane, 1v1s against junglers, and it's going to be a great time. After Braggy's here, the build really gets pretty fluid. You can kind of begin to go whatever you want. I think as long as you prioritize getting protections with maybe one flex damage item, you're generally pretty happy. So I'm going to just give you like a build that I would consistently see slash go myself. I like getting a little bit of cooldown on Bellona if I can. So something you could go is like, say you want a breastplate here to get some physical protections, right? You want to get a Shogun's here. Also, you're getting some cooldown, which is great because, again, you don't have cooldown so far in this build. You go Breastplate, Shoguns, and then this last item here, Spirit Robe, Kin Size, if you want more damage. But Spirit Robe is good here. Binding is honestly okay. It's not as good in Smite 2 as it was in Smite 1, but it's still fine. Talisman of Purification is always really, really good. Really, Talisman of Purification is just so OP that you can build it on any god at any time, and it's probably going to be a decent pickup. So Talisman here, I think, is always solid, but if you're really trying to lean into that duelist playstyle, which is what I would recommend, go Kin size um, instead, or even sell Golden Blade for Kin size late game if you want to. And again, the idea is that yes, you can team fight, you can play these 5v5 fights if you want, but the idea is that ultimately you're looking to split down a lane and force two over to you, run away, or first one over to you and just straight up solo them. I have a Bellona video I released very recently. If you want to see like a deconstructed breakdown of how to do that and how you kind of play the lane and how you play the late game, feel free to check it out because I think I did a really good job at showcasing it. So I know a bit of a controversial take, but I'm cool with it. So we have Morrigan, we have Bellona, and we have 3 more spots. For our number 3 spot, I'm going to put character that makes me sad to put this high. You know, it's kind of a shame. But I'm actually going to put Anubis here. And it sounds odd because you wouldn't imagine a full damage mage to be so good, but quite frankly, he is. And you can make an argument because of the easiness of this character that he could actually be number 1. I think there's characters that have higher ceilings in terms of impact. But if you're like a newer player and you're just trying to climb in ranked, this is probably the best character to play in solo lane. Hades, who's actually not on this list, is one that if I were to give an honorable mention to, I would give it to him. But this character is just so easy. You build full damage, and he's very, very good. Hades would be my 6th place, by the way, if I were to add him to this list, but he's just not in this one. It was close, though. Anyways, looking at Anubis, how do we build this character, and why is this character good? Quite frankly, because of his passive giving protections and him having lifesteal really easy to kind of build in your kit and stuff, and you just heal a ton and you do so much damage, you just outtrade people, and you're like surprisingly healthy because of your sustain and your protections from your passive. He's also very good into mage solos, and as a result, he's very like good for that, but he's also not bad into warriors. You know, Morrigan could struggle a bit into a Chalk or a Bellona or something if she gets off to a rough start. Anubis really doesn't. He doesn't really have a terrible lane. Again, the majority of your solo lane picks are going to be Baron Samedi. You're going to see a lot of Anubis. You might see some Amaterasu, some Hades, stuff like that. Anubis is quite good into those picks, right? So he's just favorable in the lanes. His team fighting is fantastic. His ultimate is so strong, great objective damage, pretty good secure even with the ultimate now on the first couple takes. So just so much opportunity to play team fights differently, however kind of you want to play them. And just on top of that, you just have really, really good damage. So it makes their laning phase super easy. We go Sands of Time on Anubis. There are a lot of ways you can build this character, so bear with me on the actual specific build because this is like very much a fluid kind of discussion. I think, quite frankly, as long as they're going cooldown and damage, you really can't go too wrong. What I would recommend doing for a relic is either going Blink or Aegis. Again, that could depend. Maybe you want to go Beat sometimes, but Blink or Aegis, in my opinion, is better. I think, especially from a soloing perspective, you want to engage a little bit. Having Blink just makes you really dynamic and really safe in the laning phase. Um, and yeah, I would recommend from a soloing perspective, again, because farming is very easy and accessible, go Book of Thoth. Again, flat pen, power, mana, everything you want in that item. Straight into a soul gem for lifesteal, also cooldown early. Really, really good for your ultimate and all that stuff. Afterwards, I like getting some amount of penetration or anti-heal if needed. So this is a spot where you're either going Spear of Desto or Divine. I think you're seeing a necessity for Divine in a lot of games. We're going it on Anubis and not Morrigan because Anubis applies it really well. Morrigan not so much. You could still go Divine on Morrigan though if you needed it, but definitely want Divine on Anubis. After that, couple different items you could go. I recommend going Necronomicon if you like it. I mean, obviously, if you like it, go it, right? But it would be probably the time to pick it up here. You go Necro for intelligence and more pen. And then you're just going to kind of lean into that pen idea. Just go right up to Hootie on top of that, and you can finish the build with a couple items: World Stone, Obsidian Shard, whatever you want. Seriously, it's power or cooldown. It doesn't really matter. You're going to be happy with either one. So I'm going to say because of this build having 10% pen here, 5% here, 10% here, we're at 25%. Pretty happy with that. We'll go World Stone with the idea of, again, just like spam ulting people, and we're going to basically one-shot them. If you don't want to go Necro, just don't go it and literally do this exact same build and go Obsidian Shard instead. So we'll add that as a flex item. But again, Anubis lane's super good, super easy pick. Literally cannot go wrong with this character. So feel free to play him as much as you want, even if it's super cringe. Our number 2 character is going to be Ra. Now, this god was definitely number 1 in the solo lane, which is crazy. I need to go back. Sorry about that. Here we go. He was definitely number 1 in solo lane, but he got nerfed like 6 times. Like, I think he only got nerfed like twice, but he got nerfed like 6 little iterations of little nerfs through those patches. And they didn't do much, but they did enough to move him down to number 2. I'm using this from a ranked and competitive perspective, and what god I think it's easiest to carry with as well. Where Anubis, you kind of have this ability to just kill people. With a Ra, you have the ability to just straight up not die. There's a little bit of scaling involved in it, which makes your super early game potentially scary if you're getting camped. Your 1v1s, though, are incredible, though, so I wouldn't worry about that. And yeah, that makes, again, the laning phase is very easy. It's just if you get camped, it can be a bit problematic. But once you get like 3 items, you're kind of golden. So you just got to get there, and you'll probably just win the game. You want to go Sands of Time on this character. Again, just cooldown. It's OP. Relic-wise, Blink, Sunder, or Aegis is really good. Even Beach Shell. Literally all 5 of these are fine. I think I find on Ra, I really like going Sunder because I'm building a tank build, and when I go tanks, I like to go Sunder. But if you want to go one of these other ones, feel free to go it. Again, I prefer Sunder. By no means is that a necessity. You can go any of these. But for our build, we are going into Soul Gem first. Cooldown power reinforces everything we want with the healing. We're going into a Glad Shield next. Again, we are building full tank, so this is really going to benefit everything we're going in the future. It's also an opportunity here to get more cooldown, so we're getting triple cooldown items early. Just makes you really, really spammy, which is obviously super oppressive to play against. Assuming you are into a physical, you're going Glad Shield here. If you're into a magical, you can go into a Void Stone here. But either way, these upcoming items are just dependent on the matchup you're into, so you can jumble around these dedicated defense items however you want. We're going to go a Talisman of Purification. I know we're kind of like super stacking cooldown at this point, but this item is just so overpowered that, again, like, you should just go it. You can go it before Glad Shield if you're into a magical, if you need it. We'll go Shield of the Phoenix. Again, I know it's cooldown. I don't make the rules. This build is just overpowered. It is what it is. If you really wanted to go Conduit instead of Sands of Time because they're like, wow, we are so like overstacking on cooldown here, I think it's totally fine. The only thing is, like, quite frankly, like, Archmage's Gem is just not very good when you're building tanky because it's scaling off of your intelligence, which we're not having a lot of. So, it's like, it's up to you. You could do it. You could probably get away with going Bumbas or something. I haven't tried it, but I think Sands is just fine. It's a nice early game, and it's still okay. But you got these items here. Afterwards, you can go another dedicated magical defense item, or literally just go like Spirit Robe into a Stone of Binding, or Spirit Robe into a Shifter's Shield or something. It really doesn't matter. Like, this pick is so overpowered that just like, as long as you're building defense and cooldown early, the rest of these items don't matter. Shield of the Phoenix is super important. I think Glad Shield really helps your damage, but this could be a Void Stone instead of Talisman of Purification. You could go Spirit Robe Shifters here. You could go Spirit Robe into like Cersei's Hexstone if you really wanted to, or something weird like that. You could go Eye of Providence for Ward Vision, Helm of Radiance for stacking prots, Helm of Darkness. All fine ideas. The reason why this works so well and why a tank Ra build like this wouldn't work in Smite 1, by the way, is that Ra's base damage in this game is obscenely high. and the scaling is actually not that great. So when Ra's scaling gets changed to be more of like a mage, generally mages have really high scaling but low-ish base damage, and tanks have the flip side of that. He's got basically tank scaling where his base damage is really high. So you're able to go very tanky and still do sizable damage. Where if you just like leaned fully into damage, you wouldn't actually be hitting as hard. Well, you'd be hitting harder, but it wouldn't be worth the trade-off of all the squishiness you just suddenly have. That being said, is Raw mid like good and viable and playable? For sure. But this tank build is literally just that overpowered that you should always go it from the soul lane if you have a choice. And that's our number 2 god. Ra, the only reason he's not number 1, I think, quite frankly, is just because his necessity to be a tank means that your objective damage is worse, right? You're a little bit more team reliant. Now, the argument is that you are literally unkillable and you can heal your teammates and give them protections and stuff. So you facilitate not only yourself to just kind of solo people, but your whole team to just play better and easier. But there is, to some degree, a loose level of connectivity you still need to have to your team, which could be problematic. And again, that slight liability of super early game Ra's an easy gank despite winning almost every matchup. Something to think about. So for number 1, our number 1 character. It's not a huge surprise if you watch my stream, but it's going to be Ama. And I'm not saying this just because I'm very much, a huge fan of the character, and that's kind of like what I started my channel on, but she really is just the best solo in the competitive scene in this game. You can make an argument that some ranked players will make that some of these mage solos are just a little bit easier to execute, but I don't think Ama's difficult right now at all. She's got all the benefits that Bellona has, but she has an even better laning phase after Golden Blade is purchased, and she has even better 1v1s than Bellona, and she's an easier character to get solo kills with because you don't need to commit the ultimate. So you're looking at like the team fight presence that a Ra can bring in terms of movement and safety and shielding for the team. Ra doesn't have shielding, but he has healing. On top of the 1v1 pick a fight whenever you want qualities of Bellona. So it's the best of 2 worlds. You kind of have like a hybrid of both gods. Not to mention your laning phases are incredible. Ama is super, super good at dealing with mage solos, be it Baron, Hades, Ra, Anubis. Doesn't matter. She's great into all of them. So feel free to pick it. This is like a very good counter matchup. You're going to go Sunder here and effectively just build the exact same way you did on Bellona. You're also really strong because your camp secure is great. Again, I've got plenty of Ama videos, so feel free to check those out, or and I'll be uploading more. But again, matchups are great. Early game is good. Once you get Golden Blade and Pharaoh's Curse, you're just unkillable, and it's just brutal. But yeah, map play is really good. You just have to split push around, force people over. Really good objective burn. Just everything you need. You can backdoor Phoenixes and stuff. Just super, super strong. So we go Golden Blade as our first item post Death Stole. We go Pharaoh's Curse. Again, this is just going to be just like Bellona. Braggy's Harp for the exact same reasoning as before. Where is it? I can't find it. We'll find it. Don't worry. I have something in my eye too, so it's making this tough. Where is Braggy's? There we go. Braggy's Harp right there. And then we're like in that kind of fluid, pick whatever you want, build whatever you want things. So you want to go Breastplate, you want to go Shoguns, happy stuff. You want to go Kin Size, great. Or Spirit Robe, no problem. Either way, you're feeling really, really good. What some people might ask is they might ask about a couple other characters, so I'll just like quickly address them. But yeah, this is the Alma build, and nothing really too much to say. I mean, again, just the objective pressure and the 1v1 potential, and just the ability, the fact that she's good into so many characters, makes her really, really powerful, and definitely the best solo. And as this Vegas lane comes up, which I will definitely do analysis for and post videos of that, I think we're going to see Alma hotly, hotly contested, assuming she doesn't get some massive nerfs before that, which I doubt she will. When it comes to some of the other characters that didn't make this list, I'll just quickly like do a summary of why they didn't. So Anubis, or excuse me, Hades specifically, I think is the one that most people would be surprised to see, especially with Bellona being on this list and Morrigan as well. Quite frankly, it's because Anubis is quite good into Hades. So is Amaterasu. So is Ra from a laning phase perspective. So he has a lot of difficult lanes into the top characters. On top of Mori being very good into him, Bellona's kind of whatever, but it definitely creates a somewhat risky situation to pick Hades. He also really struggles into some of the jungle picks like Susano, like Loki, like Thanatos. Just really easy to kind of poke him out and stuff. Still a really good character, um, but just a little bit more volatile than some of these other mage solos and or other picks. When you're playing Hades, you want to get your damage in. You have to really do dash commitments and stuff. You're playing Anubis, you don't have to do any of that. So there's just less risk incurred, generally speaking. And again, the primary advantage of Hades being a lane stopper is a little bit hurt in a mage meta because mages tend to fare pretty good into Hades. And the non-mage characters that are really good, like Amaterasu, are really good into Hades. So still really strong, but just slightly out of that top five. Thor solo, despite being fun, is just not up to par from a laning phase perspective with those other picks. This game is definitely more snowbally than Smite 1, so your early game is important, and your mid game is extremely important. He's still a fine pick, but at the moment, his scaling is a bit too weak. You have to build him full tank, and if you're going to play a full tank character, you may as well play Ra. You may as well play Amaterasu or Bellona or something like that. Again, is he fine? Sure. Would he be an honorable mention? Sure. Let me see. Any others that kind of are eye-popping? I think Odin and Chalk, just kind of tankier characters. You can build Chalk damage, but just not really worth it. And then Odin doesn't really translate too well in this meta. He was very OP for a while. He got nerfed a lot, and he's kind of out of it. Baron Samedi struggles a lot into the mage picks that we've mentioned. So his solo lane presence is definitely overshadowed by his support. And really, the only other character I can think of that's really strong right now is Zeus. Where because he's just such an overpowered character, he can like actually flex solo and be quite good. But even then, his mid and jungle presence is just so much better than his solo presence that you realistically should never play him in solo. You can make the same argument to some degree for Morrigan with mid, but Morrigan has a lot of good matchups into the solo picks specifically, and she complements that facilitator role, building some defense if you want to go it. Where Zeus like just doesn't really fit the solo lane mold at all. You can play the pick because he's good, but not because he's a solo laner, right? And even then, I wouldn't take him over those five picks specifically. Hercules is just not very good, so don't even worry about that. But the, excuse me, that is the list. That's the top five gods. Let me know if you agree, disagree, hate it, love it. As always, I do appreciate all the support. Just uploaded our 100th video today, so it was very, very awesome to see that. And again, let me know what you'd like to see in the future. We've got coaching stuff on the way if you guys want it. We've got more play-by-plays. We have land analysis, worlds analysis, all that stuff in the horizon. So super excited to do it. And again, thank you for watching. We'll see you very, very soon. Peace out.